Hi, Chi Sylvester. Thank you for joining in. Thank you, Diodene, for joining in. If you tune in, just share. I will be starting momentarily. Remember that I will be broadcast live on my Facebook and on my YouTube. So either way, you should be able to get me live. Here again, my name is Fonton Daniel. I will be speaking live here from the great state of Texas, here in the United States. And I want to thank all of you that are tuning in. I will be with you momentarily. Yes, I got that information. Thank you so much, Mr. Diodene. I do. Thank you. I got the information. Thank you, Mr. Morris, for tuning in here again. Thank you. I want to take a moment to thank all of you that are tuning in. Give me a moment and I will be back. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. It's just the beginning of the Waterloo. It's just the beginning, the Battle of Waterloo. That's just the beginning. Greetings, fellow brothers and sisters. Here is Funton Daniel. I will be speaking live here from the great state of Texas, here in the United States. And I want to take a moment to thank all of you. If you are here in the United States, if you are in La Republique, if you are in Ground Zero, if you are in Asia, China, Russia, Europe, wherever you are, I want to take a moment to thank all of you for tuning in today. And I will be speaking live here from the great state of Texas, here in this wonderful, amazing nation, United States. And I want to thank all of you that are just joining in. Absolutely, you're right. Absolutely. So we will begin with first with the foreign news. We'll begin with the foreign news. But before we dive into the foreign news, I will first of all thank this wonderful United States government, the government of Donald Trump, the United States Congress, the United States Senate, and the U.S. State Department, the U.S. Department of Defense, the U.S. Permanent Representative at the United Nations. It is important that we appreciate these wonderful nations, the amazing job they are doing. You know, I can assure you that if the United States frozen just for a bit of a split of a second, you will realize, you will agree with me that the world will be in chaos. But however, I just want to take a moment to thank all of you that are joining me live here on the YouTube and on my Facebook as well. So it is imperative, it is very crucial that the United States immediately intervene on behalf of the people of Ambazonian and the neighboring country, La Republic of Cameroon. It is the world, sometimes people ignore historical factual informations. And once they ignore historical factual informations, and guess what happens? That is where we are today. Evil dictatorship, they never learn from history, because if they learn from history, they will not proceed. They believe that they have exceptional case that is contrary or different from they believe that they have different that is contrary. But however, I want to thank this nation. It is amazingly. Today, I know today is a horrible day in La Republique. You all know the most prominent lawyer who stood for the Kangaroo Supreme Council, whatever they call it, the Kangaroo Supreme Council of whatever you call it in La Republique. This lady, she is a prominent lawyer, Barrister Ndoki Michel. You all see Barrister Ndoki Michel. You see, in a society where people are willing to exchange ideas, to be able to follow the rule of the law, and that will be effectively building a solid nation. And when people respect the rule of the law, and so the reason why you see the people of Southern Cameroon is leaving La Republique, because we believe in a fundamental rule of law. But because La Republique doesn't believe in the rule of law, they believe in military brutality, they believe in something, government that is contrary to the Anglo-Saxon way of life. So, but I'm going to talk briefly before I dive on what are the conversations today. So this is what happened. You all know this familiar face. You all are aware of this familiar face. It might not be clear to you. That is Barrister Ndoki Michelle. She was mercilessly this figure and taken to the judiciary police in Bonaberi. Now that I'm speaking. So if you live in Douala, you all need to descend to the judiciary police in Bonaberi. If you live in Douala and you believe that justice must be done, then you ought to be descending if you are physically in Douala, and that she must be released from the judiciary police department. You know, anarchy, that's the beginning. When anarchy begin to instill, and that is how anarchy continue. When the military that's supposed to protect the citizens and law be what is the supreme being of a nation, and when nations deviate from the law and began to brutalize those who are supposed to apply the law, then that's the beginning of anarchy. But I am not saying that anarchy is just beginning. Anarchy already began in La République prior to the French presentation of La République to the United Nations. So anarchy has already begun in the neighboring country La République. And so today just reaffirm that anarchism when Barrister Ndoki Michelle was picked up and unarmed, simply demonstrating their civil right because of an injustice of a government that is not merit. And that is why she is reaffirmed the positions and were being brutalized by the judicial police in Bonanjo. And so therefore, if you live in Douala and you believe in justice, then you ought to be descending to Bonanjo and ask whether if they are heading to anarchy, she must be released. Otherwise, that the police department should not be existing in Bonanjo, because that is the beginning of anarchy. Because they have the civil right. Those are the lawyers that are supposed to enforce the rule of law. And once those who are supposed to apply the rule of law have become the subject of harm, then that particular police system shouldn't be in existence. I'm sure I'm making sense. So those who are supposed to apply the law is the supreme being. This great nation, United States, it's not because of the weapon the United States have. It's not because of the arsenal the United States have. It's because of the law that is the supreme being of all human beings in this nation. The law is the supreme being to all human beings in this great nation they call the United States. And so those who apply the law are well respected because that law is equal and universal for everyone. And those who know the law must apply it equitably to every individual. And so therefore, if you live in Bonaberi, if you live wherever you live, you have one-way traffic to Bonanjo, and ask whether if Barrister Ndoki Michelle, who simply asking the Supreme Council that proclaims someone that has lacked legitimacy at the helm of a government that has irrelevant to the people. And today, she simply reaffirmed the rule of the law. And yet, he finds herself in a miserable, in atrocity of the forces of disorder from Bonanjo. Here, let's look at his images, and then you see what happens next. You all see these images. This image may not be effective for you to see, But however, you can see from what I just projected, indicate that she was in agony in the environment that I see, and that I can't be able to project it for your view. But however, those images are on my Facebook if you happen to see the real images. But I'm bringing them because it's associated to what I am talking about. So therefore, she represent the law which is the fundamental principles in which all human beings must abide because it protects every individual. So I refer again, the United States is the most prominent because of the law. The law is above everyone, and it is applied to everyone, and no one is exceptionally different from the law. And that is what she still reaffirmed her position, that the law must supersede. And now she, Barrister Ndoki Michelle, you can find the position where she is, and she be antagonized by the forces of La Republique because she's simply advocating the truth. And that is what you see in her. And here again, you can see the images, although they may not be exactly clear for me to project for you to view, but you can always see them on my Facebook. This is her again. Below, underneath her, or above her, is someone too that were among those being arrested. So if you live around Douala, your one way must be in the judiciary police in Bonanjo, because that department doesn't need existence, because when the privilege of the people are being scrutinized by being dismantled by the forces, then the forces doesn't need to exist. And that is the momentum, the beginning of Waterloo that will lead to the final, because will lead crucifixion. Because Paul Biya has no merit. Paul Biya basically has no merit. He ought to be in nursing home. He ought to be in retirement home. He ought to be somewhere in some residential area. But yet, people need to step up and say, no, no. Military, the position of the military is to protect the citizens and not a self-individual that claim to be the sole ruler of whatever it is. I think it's time the neighboring country, La Republique, need to rise and above everyone and say no to the evil dictatorship. It's time they need to rise, and that every activities in Douala need to be grounded. Absolutely. Every activities in Douala should be grounded until Paul Biya leaves. And this immediately must transcend to Yaoundé as well. This must transcend to Yaoundé. This is the beginning of Waterloo that will lead to the crucifixion of Paul Biya and all his entourage. Because this is the beginning of Waterloo. Because the people that's supposed to apply the law are becoming the victim of atrocity government. A government that does not remit. A government that doesn't represent the people. The government that is an autocratic government. And recruit his own officials who are suppressing the voice of every individual. You can see her again as she's been surrounded by the barbaric military of La Republique. The military that ought to stay for the dignity of the citizens of La Republique. But yet, they stood to persecute those who are fighting for a freedom of every individuals. And those military doesn't need existence. Those military need to be perished. Those military has no value and a dignity for every people. So long as the people have no voice. So long as the people have no voice. It is imperative that the world take into consideration that when a government that lacks responsibility to stand on behalf of the people, and when the military choose ignored the people's wishes, instead stood with the evil dictatorship, then that government need not to merit. Any officer in that category shouldn't be merit. I think it's time that they step aside and face the wrath of the populations. It's time the population, it's time the military of La Republic face the wrath of the people Because the consent of any government must be from the people. But once the consent has been withdrawn, and then that government need no existence. And therefore the people must take over. And immediately they turn that government, because the consent is oppressed. The government is oppressed without the consent of the people. So therefore, since the people has withdrawn their consent, and therefore that government must be discarded. Any military of La Republic that has not been given the consent, they either need to lay down their weapons and surrender on behalf of the people. This is the beginning of the Battle of Waterloo. Now you can see her. That's her real picture. That's the picture of her in procession. And now she has been brutalized and then picked up. Instead of rushing to a medical facilities where she can be treated, instead they rush to the judiciary police. The kangaroo government of La Republique. The kangaroo government. I think it's time the people need to rise. It's time the people need to terminate that government, because that government is not an efficient and effective government. That government, the consent of that particular government has been withdrawn. And since the consent of that government has been withdrawn, then the people need to face the wrath of the people. That is the beginning of the Waterloo. That's the beginning. And it should immediately apply in Yaoundé as well. If you live in Yaoundé, then you need to be prepared that the Battle of Waterloo, the Battle of Pobia Leave, and the military must be discarded, because you have his clique, his tribal group, his tribal men, whom he has appointed, and they are the ones carry on the atrocity. On the Federal Republic of Ambazonian. The Federal Republic of Ambazonian. This is the prominent professor, Professor Paul Mbofun. Professor Paul Mbofun is a brilliant professor. He's well known within his community. He's well respected. And this professor was assassinated in the Federal Republic of Ambazonian. He was assassinated by the military of La Republique. This is a well-known professor. He was head of the university, Bamenda University. This professor was immediately assassinated by La Republique, that are currently in Southern Cameroon territory. It is imperative that we, the people of Ambazonia, wherever if you haven't been able to support our system, I urge you that you need to be part of this momentum. This is a well-prominent professor. He was from the village of Nsei in Bamising. This professor is from Nsei in Bamising, in Gokutunjia. He was assassinated by the military of La Republique. Simply, he was just driving to maybe he was heading to his work. Professor Paul Mbofu, he was just driving. He's from the Nsei village in Gokutunjia, state. He was assassinated by La Republique, the military. And so today he lies helplessly, and his cold-blooded skin that has been murdered by the evil neighboring country in La Republique. We have asked La Republique to immediately and unconditionally leave the Southern Cameroon territory. This professor is well known within his colleagues, within his friends, within his surrounding, within his family and elsewhere around the world. and he is from the same village in Bamisi. He was brutally murdered by the evil of La Republique du Cameroon military. So, for those who live in, I know I have spoke about the Esu around the womb area. It is very sad and disbelievable. This young girl that I am about to show to you, and if you hear the story, I know I post some of the images on my Facebook and on my Twitter. This girl is a very young, brilliant girl from Esu womb area. She was sexually assaulted until her death. You can imagine she was sexually assaulted until her death. Imagine how many military were in possession of her until she died on the spot. This is absolutely painful. And this is her in her images that you will be seeing. She's from Esu in womb area. And she was in a court by the military of the neighboring country, La Republique. And she was sexually assaulted and until she gave up the ghost. This is absolutely painful that I would never in any circumstances stand and allow La Republique. And for those, especially those who are speaking about federation, it is imperative that you take note that we will not in any circumstances be romancing those who choose federation. We will not be joining the people, the devil, that we believe that they have inhuman treatment. And those who choose that they want to be federated with La Republique. This is a serious warning to those individuals. This is a serious warning to those individuals that they are opted for federation. We do not need federation. Our people are intelligent. Our people are well educated. Our people are well civilized. Our people are well informed. We do not need federation. I repeat, we do not need federation. For those individuals that they are opted for federation, I have a good news for you. Because when the people turn their wrath towards those who are advocating for federation, then your spirit will be merged and you will be packaged in different formats. I am very serious about this. For those who are opted for federation, because we will not. We have education, we have knowledge, we have experience, we have everything in our disposal. But the fact that we have over the past 56 years working amicably, bringing the attention of this neighboring country, and they have not in any single days yield to our call. And those now standing that the choice for federation, it is over our dead body. And for those individuals, it is a serious warning to you. I am serious. For those that are standing and advocating for federation, you are on the wrong side of the game. You are absolutely on the wrong side of the game. Because if I see this girl that was assaulted and sexually assaulted unto her death, and she gave her ghost, and you stand in front of me and speaking about federation, then you must be wrong and you must be ignorant. And she, her living memory, she may not be related to me, but she is my sister in Christ. And I know that feeling that I have, that she represents the spirit of the people of Ambazonia. She represents the memory of the people of Ambazonia. She just gave up the ghost. And we will stand and defend her. And that whatever she is, that we are together in deep spirit and we will meet somewhere, somehow, sometime. The fact that he leaves us because of a military of La Republic that sexually assaulted her unto death without any human feeling. I think we have something to talk about it for those who are standing for federation, and do not stay in any Southern Cameroon for the all Ambazonian. Any meeting that is holding in Southern Cameroon territory with the title of federation, then that people need to be eliminated. To be honest with you, I am very clear in this. I am very clear. I am very clear. I am very clear. For those who, this is our sister. She hasn't reached the prime of her life. And those who are asking for federation are already at a retirement age. And they are making decisions that are affecting this, that she has been sexually assaulted. This is their lifespan. This is the time of their growth. This is their high level. And you, as an individual that is halfway gone to somewhere, that your age is no longer needed at the current generation. But you want to make an accord that will affect this that have already started experiencing it. And the youth that have been murdered. And you want to tell me you want to be federated. Then you must be newfoundly wrong. You must be wrong. So, Amber boys, is anyone in that conference, then they need to be deformed in different packages and sent back to La Republic. Let them go and negotiate with La Republic in different formats. Because this is absolutely ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. We cannot in any circumstances allow this individual. I mean, imagine her. Imagine. That's her. That's her images. She was sexually assaulted until her death. She was. She was. And someone will sit, whatever they call Muslim, and whatever they call Cardinal Christian to me. Let me tell you. If Jesus Christ is speaking to Cardinal Toomey that he ought to lead us into federation, then I can assure him that the Christ that he's listening is the wrong Jesus Christ. It's absolutely. The Jesus Christ that he is listening to is the wrong Jesus Christ. Because when our brothers are being killed, he is not there to defend them. Then his spirit that he's standing and advocating for, the Jesus Christ, is the wrong Jesus Christ. And not the Jesus Christ of the people of Southern Cameroon. It's not the Jesus of the people of Southern Cameroon. Then our people have different Jesus. Not the one he's heading. Not the one he's heading. I want to talk briefly on the GCE board that people are screaming. Look, the GCE board, remember, La Republic has no control in any education system in the people of Ambazonian. La Republic can sign whatever 1,000 decree is not applicable in the people of Southern Cameroon. La Republic can sign whatever decree they sign is not applicable to the people of Ambazonia. Bobia can sign whatever decree he has signed, and it will not be applicable in the Southern Cameroon. And so any individual that is currently, because first, the GCE, I am speaking now to the current generation. The GCE that La Republic is formulating is not applicable to the people of Southern Cameroon, because the people of Southern Cameroon has proclaimed their independence, and now they are at war. And they're fighting to make sure that the identity of the people of Ambazonia is sustained and maintained. So the people of Ambazonia has declared their complete total separation from La Republic. We have declared a complete separation from La Republic. And so the GCE, whatever it is called, that is La Republic document, and that stays in La Republic and is not applicable into the Southern Cameroon. The institution of education system of the people of Ambazonian shall be defined by the people of Ambazonian and not La Republique. And not La Republique. So any certificate that was awarded by La Republique from the period that Southern Cameroon was declared complete separate from La Republique is not valid in Southern Cameroon. And we are letting the international community to be aware. Any certificate issued by La Republique to the people of Southern Cameroon, now the Federal Republic of Ambazonian, from the date where the independence of Ambazonia were completely separated by Seseko. So when this interim government of Ayok Seseko announced a complete separation, and any certificate issued by La Republique to any world community is null and void. If the individual actually studied in neighboring country La Republique and show proof that the person studied there, then that certificate became valid only in La Republique. But any certificate that is issued after the proclamation of the sovereignty of the people of Ambazonia will not be valid. I hope that makes sense. So any certificate issued by La Republique after the proclamation of the sovereignty of the people of Ambazonia will not be valid. And so any certificate, if you study in La Republique, may be valid. Then, but the one issued after the independence of the Southern Cameroon will not be considered any document. And so we are making the world community to be aware of this strictly. La Republique has no privilege in organizing any education system in the people of Southern Cameroon as henceforth when the Southern Cameroon declaration was made. The people of Southern Cameroon, the people of now the Federal Republic of Ambazonian, they have restored their nations. Remember that United Nations General Assembly in a 994 plenary meeting on Friday, April 1961 at 3 p.m. here in the United States in New York. The meeting was the 15th session of the General Assembly. It was presided over by Frederick E. Boland of Ireland. The session general president was Mr. Xian from China. The rapporteur in that community was Mr. Boeing of Denmark. Those were the executive community that was meeting here in New York at the United Nations General Assembly. In this General Assembly, there were 64 nations that voted recognizing the sovereignty of the people of Ambazonia. At the time, it was Southern Cameroon or West Cameroon, whatever it is called. So the 64 nations that voted for the sovereignty and the dignity of the people of Ambazonia. Those nations, which I shall read them as they are. 1. Honduras, Hungary, Iceland, India, Indonesia, Iran, Iraq, Iran, Ireland, Japan, Jordan, Laos, Lebanon, Liberia, Libya, Mali, Mexico, Morocco, Nepal, Netherlands, New Zealand, Nigeria, Norway, Pakistan, Philippines, Poland, Romania, Saudi Arabia, Sudan, Sweden, Thailand, Tunisia, Turkey, Ukraine, Soviet Republic, Union of South Africa, Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, United Arab Republic, United Kingdom, Afghanistan, Great Britain, Netherlands, United States of America, Venezuela, Yemen, Yugoslavia, Afghanistan, Albania, Australia, Austria, Bolivia, Bulgaria, Burma, Belarus, Canada, Ceylon, Chile, Costa Rica, Cuba, Cyprus, Czechoslovakia, Denmark, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Ethiopia, Federation of Malaya, Finland, Ghana, and Guinea. Those were the nations that voted for the sovereignty of the people of Ambazonia. There were 64 nations that voted on the plenary sessions at 3 p.m. in New York. Those were the nations that voted for the sovereignty of the people of Ambazonia. And the nations that voted against were 23 in number. And those 23 nations in number that voted against the independence of the people of Southern Cameroons, they include Israel, Ivory Coast, Luxembourg, Madagascar, Niger, Paraguay, Senegal, Upper Volta, Uruguay, Argentina, Belgium, Brazil, Cambodia, Cameroon, the neighboring country that we are fighting our independence, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Chad, China, Congo, Brazzaville, Congo, Dahomey, France, Gabon, Greece. You absolutely will realize with me that those nations that voted against the sovereignty of the people of Ambazonia, mostly in Africa, were the French colony. That's the France colony in Africa. And that is why you will agree with me why the current president, Emmanuel Macron, traveled to Nigeria to persuade Nigeria to form a triangular against the people of Ambazonia. And also with Chad in the north and La Republique in the east. Those were the triangular that were forming a bloc against the citizens of the people of Ambazonia. And you realize that those nations that voted against the United Nations were typically French colony. And those who abstained, or those who did not vote, include Italy, Panama, Peru, Portugal, Spain, Togo, Colombia, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Haiti. Those were the nations that abstained. They did not vote at the United Nations General Assembly. Fellow brothers and sisters, we are at war. We are at war. So our people is at war. And we have our common enemy, La Republique of Cameroon. So we are ready to defend our territory. We must do this because it is imperative that we can no longer live with this neighboring country, La Republique of Cameroon. It is imperative that we take this as a matter of urgency. There are certain individuals within our midst that are inaccurately and disenfranchise our people and weakening our defense system back at home. And so those individuals, I urge you to stop meddling, allow the people to make a decision because they are physically meeting the enemies. And I don't want you to engage and destabilize them. You all know what they stand for. They are physically with the enemy. You are outside of the enemy. Allow them to make that decision. Because the decision they make, you will not be there to focus your camera to see exactly what they make. So allow them to make their prompt decision. Because that decision will affect the long implications. If you are not, if you happen to be, allow them. Let them make their decision. Imagine that you are in the medical professions. A doctor, a surgeon is seeing a patient. He is physically seeing the patient. He knows how the behavior of that particular patient that he is dealing with. It's the matter of life and death, and that surgeon must decide on behalf of that patient. You are outside. You are a surgeon. You are outside of that location. You can't make decisions on behalf of that surgeon because you don't physically see the patient's behavior. So let those outside that are not physically leave those that are physically take the decision they make, because that obviously gives them the last impression. The victory belongs to them. They have the victory to make those decisions. You cannot be a surgeon and operate in a different hospital. You must be physically in that particular hospital, in that particular patient, and be consented to carry on that action. So let's leave the people carry on their effective job effectively. For those who just stay somewhere, you know what you're supposed to do. We all know what we're supposed to do. And let's concentrate and do what we're supposed to do. And allow those that are physically dealing with the enemy, let them make their informed choice because they are physically seeing the enemy. You cannot be a surgeon and be elsewhere, somewhere in some different country and tell how to operate because you don't see the patient. The surgeon who is seeing the patient know what to do to protect and prolong that life of that particular patient. Let's be realistic. 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 They are physically seeing the enemy. They are with the enemy. They have a choice to make. And that choice gives a last impression for the survivor or defeated. And so they are seeing the enemy. You are not physically seeing the enemy. Allow them to make their informed choice. Advise them during a regular meeting and let them know. They still have the choice to whether to incorporate your choices because they are physically seeing the enemy. We should guide them and tell them, but we should not be the architect to tell them that they must do this. No, let's allow them the freedom. I want to take a moment to thank all the citizens of those in Ground Zero that we appreciate you, all the effort that you have been doing. All of the Ambazonian entire system. I am deeply at the bottom of my heart. I appreciate your effort. I believe that we can do this and that the enemy is destabilizing our peace and tranquility. Imagine that when we left the Enugu House of Assembly in Nigeria, our people, Nigerian government never declared war on us. We left peacefully. And yet we have our sisters, our mother, our lawyers, all our talented individuals are being brutalized by a nation that is foreign to us. Then we don't need that government. We don't need it because we are capable to manage our own government with our own knowledge and skills and all our intelligence. I want to take a moment to thank all of you that are watching. Wish you all a happy and wonderful day. God is with us. Have a nice day.